Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And instead of this week's to back or not to back, we are going to have a full pledge manager video covering, this is one of the things I do every 3 months, covering all the open late pledges, 100 different campaigns to go through. And let's give a little bit of a, guidance to this video. First of all, timestamps down below. It may not look like it because YouTube doesn't like it when I put 100 timestamps in. So those little cross-marked bars, you may not see those, but if you scroll down to the actual comment section or the description, whatever, if you scroll into the description, then you will see each individual thing. You can click on it, hop to whatever section you want. Additionally, links to all these Kickstarters or the pledge manager links, probably the pledge manager links to all the pledge managers will be in the pinned comment and in the top pinned comment. Again, it's just a question of YouTube only allows 5,000 characters in the description, and I can't create, well, I could, but I'm not going to create bit.ly links for 100 different campaigns. So basically look for the pinned comment and the description to be guided around. That said, before we jump into it, first of all, I will talk fast. I talk fast all the time. When I'm covering 100 different campaigns, I talk faster. Also, it's going to be very quick overviews of each one. It's not going to be that much in depth, and if I don't remember that much about a particular game from when I covered it last, then it is what it is, because I can't research all of these every single time again. I'm mostly relying on my memory. And then additionally, I will not be covering when the pledge manager closes or any price differences that there may be. So if you want to be aware of that, you can check the pledge manager, check the Kickstarter. Oh, it's $7 more. Make a decision accordingly. There's just too much information to properly cover. And in terms of closing, I can't, because they constantly change things in terms of when things close. That said, past that, let's go into it. So past that, we have also, since the last video, 44 more pledge managers have closed since the last video. We are still covering 100 pledges. I believe it was like 52 or 53 from last time, and then 44 new ones. This video will be divided up into a few parts. We will have the new ones first. All the new pledge managers since the last video will be covered first. Then there'll be a clear break. Again, all timestamps will all show this, but basically there'll be a clear break, at which point I will rattle through the old ones even faster. So if you've been watching the older videos, then, whatever. These videos go up every 3 months. I try to cover the old and the new. And before that, last thing to cover before we jump into those is, first of all, the Patreon exclusive video of the day. To basically, every Monday I put up a Patreon exclusive video. This one is going to be a Cthulhu Death May Die playthrough episode 2. You can check that out. $2 a month gets you access to that. Although $5 a month gets you access to the other Monday videos that go up every single Monday. That's basically going on there. And then lastly, let's go ahead and talk about 3 campaigns briefly, very briefly, before we get into the Patreon exclusive stuff. Not before we get into the pledge manager stuff. So, number 1 is Scarface. I'm not actually talking about Scarface right now. I'm just letting you know that I will have a Should You Back It on Scarface. I have been intentionally pushing this one off, and I'm still pushing it off because the game is expensive. I mean, you've seen the comments. You've looked at the game at 100. What is it, 100 euro entry price point? What do we have over here? It's let me see over here. €99 entry price. $120 is the entry point to this game for a game that doesn't have that many exclusives. There's like a handful of cards and then some buildings. So basically, I'm waiting because they do keep releasing new stuff. So I am curious about the exclusive content. We have 25 days to go. I don't know exactly when I'm going to cover this. Basically, at a certain point, I will put out a Should You Back video, and hopefully I have enough information to actually cover it properly. Unfortunately, it may end up being in the same situation as The Witcher or something like that, where you have a campaign that only fully reveals its value towards the end. Either way, my point is I will have coverage of the Should You Back It for Scarface, not going to be in this video though. Next up from there, we have Fall of the Mountain King. I told you last week I would have some minor updates just in terms of what they've unlocked for exclusives, so we're going to go over that. I should probably scroll down to find the right section. So over here, we have all the things that have been updated in terms of the extras. Now, they did unlock a whole bunch of trolls. They don't seem to be exclusive though, so I'm not commenting on those. Just you'll see them as I scroll by. But exclusives for this campaign are going to include the Warhammer Mini. You're going to have the 65 influence chits. These are a different design for your pieces, for your tokens. We're going to have the supply barrels, again, a different design. So these are just deluxe upgrades, component upgrades, which is typical for Burnt Island games. They don't really lock exclusives behind, but they don't really lock gameplay behind exclusives. They lock upgraded components. More trolls. We have component upgrades, shiny gold elders. So basically some shininess to the the ancestry cards you're going to be drafting, some more trolls. We have dual layer boards. Oh my gosh, I love dual layer boards. And for these clan boards and vote boards in particular, they're basically close to essential. Not essential, they're never essential, but they are a nice component upgrade. We have the custom known wheel pawn. We have Fenwin Bends of Truth. We have that's just gonna be another troll. We have more component upgrades for shiny silver great halls, and then more trolls, and that's what we have currently. There are still 4 days to go, so we'll see. And keep in mind that's just the stretch goals. There are in general in the deluxe version of the game already comes with like game trays, deluxify tokens, miniatures, all those other things. I'm just doing a quick run through of the extras that the campaign has so far. And then next up we have Isle of Cats, and then we're going to jump into the pledge managers. Isle of Cats, I just want to cover what we have unlocked in the Kickstarter pack. Basically, the Kickstarter pack 2 are all the daily unlocks or reveals that are being included in this game if you back the Kickstarter. These are the things that you can't otherwise get at retail. And from there we have beast upgrades, 25 larger meeples for the various 25 larger meeples for the various new meeples they have in the game. We have 10 double-sided events for the event module, so that's going to be a whole bunch of more events we got. We have new tiles, 15 cats and 4 beasts, and then you have 12 new core cards, as well as 12 months of digital access to the game on Sovereignty. So that's going to be a new digital platform that I haven't tried yet myself, but I have heard good things about. And that's what you're getting if you back Isle of Cats online, as opposed to getting it on Kickstarter, as opposed to getting it in retail. And with that, I will take a quick sip of water, and we will start off with all the pledge managers. Only 6 minutes into the video before we actually start. That sounds about right for a Board Game Code video. So, let's go into it. Dice Tower, number 1. This one is one I debated including because it's not really a game, but it's the Dice Tower, and I do believe in supporting. I mean, I pledged for this as well. Generally, I'm just a fan of the Dice Tower. I think they do a lot of stuff for the hobby. I think they do a lot of things that I would never want to and don't plan on doing. The amount of games they cover that I have no interest in ever wanting to cover, or at most channels for that matter. There are so many games that Dice Tower covers. There are so many things they do that other channels do not do, because they, I think not more so, I think exclusively, Dice Tower is the only full board review network. They are straight up a review network in this space. Almost everyone else who covers board games in this space has a much higher degree of picking and choosing what they want to cover. Whether it's Shut Up and Sit Down, no pun included, who put out one video a week and they focus on a particular game. Whether it's someone like myself who covers a decent amount of games, but still they have to hit a certain threshold of interest level for me to cover it. Pick whatever channel you want. Nobody covers games to the extent, to the length that Dice Tower does. They are a full, straight up board game network channel. The space they occupy in this hobby is unlike any other content creator out there. When you're looking for a review of the latest hotness, sure, there's 15 channels you can go to. If you want full coverage of everything that exists, Dice Tower is the channel, and there's sacrifice involved in doing that. I don't want to cover a lot of the games that they end up covering. I don't want to look at every single game and look at it as an obligation to cover every single game, so that everyone out there has a place they can go. Past that, there are rewards. So if you're interested in getting rewards, or I don't think they have any more dice people that you can buy, but scenarios or upgrades or dice towers or any of these different things, the rewards are still available. This will be on Gamefound. I'll have links to all of that. This is likely the longest coverage I will have of a single pledge manager in this video. From there, we have Fallen Land. Fallen Land is going to be a post-apocalyptic game. This was the second edition of the game, and basically they have this one on still available to late pledge, but this is the second edition of a well-rated game, post-apocalyptic. I don't know that much about the game past my research into it because I have not played or heavily looked into this one. From there, we have Human Punishment at the Beginning. This is going to be a game that's falling into the same vein as Battlestar Galactica. This game promises you that degree of kind of trying to figure out what your opponents are doing as you move around the board, accomplish your goals, reveal your allegiance at different points in the game. It was promising, if you looked at the testimonials, this was promising Battlestar Galactica again and again. If you know Nemesis or Battlestar Galactica, remember that atmosphere multiplied by 10, and you look at the beginning. Our first game was really awesome. I sold my Battlestar Galactica just for your project, man. That's an insane testimonial. Granted, it's one person, so take it with a grain of salt, but it is an insane testimonial. This is currently available to late pledge, and this is from what's the name of the company again? It's Human Punishment from Godot Games. Next up, we have Cryptid Cafe. Cryptid Cafe is going to be a light little, basically fulfilling orders in your Cryptid Cafe. It's looks to be on the mid to lightweight game side, cartoony artwork and filling orders in this game. From there we have Alba. Alba is going to be an open world journey adventure book. Last thing by the way, in general with these Kickstarter, with these pledge manager videos, I generally kind of exclude, just because there's so many campaigns otherwise, I tend to exclude things that have under 1,000 backers, or in the range, I would say. Somewhere in the range of 1,000 backers is usually my threshold, just to gauge general audience interest. There would be way too many campaigns to cover if I covered everything that had 200 backers. But Alba is going to be an adventure book. This is going to be giving you some sort of choose your own adventure book that you can repeat. There's reset packs, all that. This one did really well, by the way, which is why it made me think of whatever. It had 10,000 backers, which is insane, and a fairly accessible price point depending on just how much you got. But you can jump into this at, I think at the low end was like $30 maybe, somewhere in the range. Yeah, a special hardback edition, Gay as Radio. We can even get the paperback version of the game for £12, which is pretty awesome. Easy entry point to this game. From there we have Radlands. Radlands from Roxley Games. This is another Roxley production, deluxe, looks beautiful, looks gorgeous. 2-player head-to-head gameplay as you figure out your post-apocalyptic wasteland and managing your resources and attacking each other and doing all of that in this 2-player card game that looks beautiful. Definitely want to play this one. Haven't had a chance to yet. They came with a bunch of options: the core game, the deluxe upgrades, the player mat, the deluxe tokens, all these different things. Man vs. Meeple had coverage, Board Game Coffee had coverage, left, right, and center, different channels had coverage of this game. Check this one out. This is Radlands, Roxley Games. From there we have CoraQuest from Dan and Cora Hughes. This is going to be a child-friendly dungeon crawler game. This will be available at retail, but I believe, I'm 99% certain, that the retail version of the game is different than the Kickstarter version of the game. There are less things in the retail version, but yeah, this is going to be a child-friendly dungeon crawler. I've played this with my kids. We've all enjoyed it, from my 5-year-old all the way to my 9-year-old. All of them have, well, my 1-year-old didn't enjoy it, but he's he's not into games yet. It's okay. But yeah, this is going to be one that it really did give me that dungeon crawl feel. In fact, I would say I haven't played. There's another one in this vein. The Catacombs of Karak, I haven't played that one yet. I need to play that. But CoraQuest and Adventure Tactics are both going to be the dungeon crawlers that I've played with my kids. And from those two, for my kids, I prefer CoraQuest. The Adventure Tactics is a little higher end in terms of the audience it's targeting. So it's like kids, but more adults as well. Whereas CoraQuest is very much family focused and enjoyable as well, playing along. I wouldn't play it with adults alone, but very much enjoyable to play this one. From there we have Maquis. Maquis second edition, or is it Maquis? I never get it right. I really need to figure out these pronunciation things. Maquis from Sideroom Games. This is going to be bringing you a solo game, solo worker placement as you go through this game trying to survive. This is a second edition reprint, some small updates and whatnot. There were ways to upgrade your existing copy of the game if you wanted it, and that's Maquis. Or Maquis, or something. Sideroom Games, that's the one. We have Core Worlds Empires, Core World Nemesis. This is going to be bringing you back both, well, it's bringing you two things. It's bringing you expansions to Core Worlds, as bringing you an entirely new game in the Core Worlds universe. Always confusing when companies do that. It's very tough. I mean, again, we just covered Fall of the Mountain King and in the Hall of the Mountain King. 2 games in the same universe, but at least the titles are arguably different, versus Core Worlds. When you see Core Worlds and you see Core Worlds, Nemesis Core Worlds, Empires Core Worlds, whatever, you just are going to assume expansion content for a deck builder. A good deck builder, but it's not exclusively expansion content. This is bringing you an entirely new game in the universe. A struggle to get over the finish line, but it did get over the finish line. This is one you can check out on, well, Pledge Manager, on whatever site it's on. Kingdom Rush Elemental Uprising. This is going to be our first Gamefound one. Again, links to everything, so we'll still have it. But this is basically going to be the late pledge to Kingdom Rush, a game that was the follow-up to Kingdom Rush Rifts in Time. And Kingdom Rush is bringing you Polyomino Tower Defense, cooperative Polyomino Tower Defense. This is a game that I have primarily enjoyed solo and 2-player. 3 and 4 I found to be a bit chaotic. I would play it with 3 and 4, just reluctantly so. For me, 1 to 2 players is the sweet spot for this game. 3 is still pretty good. 4 I'd really rather not. 3 was decent. 2 and 1 were really the sweet spot for me. But overall, this is one that is a cooperative, and so this is a solo and cooperative experience that I love, and I mean that because this was one that it really gave you a ton of fun and strategy as you place down your different polyominoes. The Elemental Uprising gave us some new elements to the game, some new elements that I appreciated, from the way events are handled, from things that go on the board, the stickers and the cards that upgraded. I don't love stickers, but I do like upgrading my cards, so a bit of a toss-up there. Overall, I think Elemental Uprising is a better entry point to the system, but not enough so that if you have Rifts in Time and you don't need more content, your Rifts in Time pledge is totally fine. You don't need to upgrade to this at all. Both give you solid gameplay. Again, I slightly lean towards Elemental Uprising as being a better entry point, but the keyword is slightly. So unless you want to spend another $120, whatever it is, jumping and upgrading and adding more content, then your original pledge is totally fine. Or, of course, retail. Retail is another option as well, where you'll get less content, but you'll get it a lot cheaper. From there, we have Force of Radgost. This is one that I actually had late pledge. I had pledge manager coverage of, meaning I basically did a video for the pledge manager covering the game. You can check my channel. I won't have space for links below because everything's going to be filled up already. But check my channel if you want to see that. But Force of Radgost is going to be a storytelling adventure game. This is one where you're basically wandering through the forest trying to rescue the children as they escape. It really is more narrative driven than mechanic driven. There are going to be mechanics in the game, but the goal of the game, this is a family focused game and or about the story and lore. This is not a game where you are going to be struggling to try to win. They do have a few scenarios in the Kickstarter campaign that are a little harder, but for the most part, it is far more about the narrative. It's far more about the process and the procedure than it is about the actual mechanically driven game. That said, the gameplay was immersive in terms of the amount of stuff you can have, the amounts of cards you can draw, the amounts of things you can do in this game, and you get this card and do that and get there, all those different options in this game. From there, we have Block and Key, a game that my wife had me late pledge because I wasn't actually planning on backing this one. But overall, this is going to be a game that this is a game that combines a puzzly element of everyone has their cards that they're trying to make these puzzle patterns on that surface area. So you're going to rotate, everyone's going to have their side of the surface area. You're going to be looking at that and you're going to have to try to configure a pattern, which means as people put things down, it may block or help my pattern. You have these different angles you're looking at it. You see these cards? Look, I fulfilled that visual alignment by looking at the thing. A cute little interesting puzzle available to late pledge. Roman Roll, the Gladiators expansion. This is going to be from David Theurgy and Nick Shaw. This is going to be the expansion to Roman Roll, which is a heavier roll and write game. I have Roman Roll. I need to play it. I have not played it. I have a lot of games I haven't played. Whatever. Roman Roll, Gladiators expansion. So this is going to be giving you a lot more content for the game that you already have. This looks a drop like David Theurgy. A drop. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. It's just a hint of David Theurgy in that picture there. But either way, this is going to be more content for your Roman Roll game. From there we have Cultivate. Cultivate, a game where you're trying to arrange these different patterns with your cultists as you acquire them, trying to figure out the different, do I want to get the agendas for the pyramid, for this person, for whatever, all these different options for how you're trying to basically acquire cultists, put them into your grid in ways that lock different patterns in place, and different abilities and powers past that. From there we have Root, the Marauders expansion. This is going to be giving you the Marauders expansion to Root, bringing you 2 new factions, as well as the idea, the concept of, I can't remember what they're called, but the smaller factions. So we had the Marauder expansion giving you 2 things, and we have, what are they called again? Hirelings. The Hirelings basically are giving you a bunch of these kind of miniature expansions that you can introduce to the game to kind of add stuff to the game, especially if you're playing at lower player counts. So if you want to play a 2-player game of Root, but you want more things going on the board, more things that are going to be keeping the game interesting, those Hirelings are great for that. I believe you can play it solo as well with Hirelings, but also are autonomous solo as well. But yeah, Root's giving you 2 new factions, plus a whole bunch of other content along with it. This is the Marauders expansion, available to late pledge. I gotta stop saying that. Chamber of Wonders by Ludus Magnus Light. This is going to be a set collection game. A set collection game that was pretty fun in terms of you're trying to, basically you're putting down it's a little bit of worker placement, a little bit of set collection. It's all about displaying your Chamber of Wonders to the public. By doing so, you're placing your agents on the board to different locations, taking different actions that will have you draw cards and draft them, draw cards and bid or sell on them, all these different ways of getting cards and or selling cards as you slowly unlock more cabinets, display more wonders, and ultimately achieve or acquire the best sets in this game that plays in 20-30 minutes. Pretty good play time, depends on the player count, but a 2-player game this, and we knocked out in 20 minutes. A solid fun for the playtime. From there we have Ragnarocks. Oh my gosh, Ragnarocks, a fast fun game for the design of Santorini. This is by Grey Fox Games, and this is giving you Ragnarocks, which is like, it's going to fall in the same vein as Santorini. Different game, different system, but the general idea of an abstract game that is augmented by the various player powers you have, various player powers that will keep things different every single time you play it. Ragnarok's is a game that's giving you, like, it just gives you player powers, and the goal is to kind of block off areas of the board to build up your own areas and have the most area control in those areas. Lots of fun. Can't wait to get this one to the table again. I had to sadly send my prototype on, but I want this one back. From there with Tiny Epic Dungeons, continuing the Tiny Epic universe with a dungeon crawl, which is about time because this brought in $2 million, which is pretty awesome for them. I think the last one they had Tiny Epic Pirates, which brought in $1 million, and they went from there to crossing the $2 million line. People like dungeon crawls. People like familiar games, familiar tropes, familiar game design. People say they want interesting and different, but they don't actually always want interesting and different. But it's giving you tons of different gear and equipment and things and all these stuff as you go through the dungeon crawl in this game, little abstracted Tiny Epic Dungeons. From there we have Theurgy, another game that I had late pledge coverage of. Theurgy is going to be an abstract area control game. It's an abstract in terms of it's very much an area control game with a combat and fighting and taking over people's priests or followers. So you're gonna have your own. is it priests? Not priests. You have your own main units, can't remember what they're called, but then you have the followers, which are all going to be, you're trying to convert people to your different, to your faith, so that you can erect temples, and if you get the most temples before the end of the game, it's really 5, 6, or 7 temples, depending on the player count, depending on what you need to do. So you're trying to get a bunch of temples built, but you're doing so by having the most followers in different areas when you test the faith. So you're moving your people around the board, trying to convert people, trying to position your various tokens so that you can most accurately test the faith and convert people to your followers. Think of them as miracles or signs. You also have beasts, and you have monsters and creatures and miracle cards. Lots of other things to keep the game interesting. It is effectively an area control abstract game with tons of powers and abilities layered over it. That is Theurgy. This one, by the way, closes in like 7 days or 8 days, something like that, so keep that in mind. Force of Radgost, by the way, speaking of which, Force of Radgost, I think, officially was closed, but when I checked, the pledge manager was still open, so you may have a day or two on that. From there, we have Pagan, Fate of Roanoke, another game that I played last minute. I managed to play this game in the last 2 days of the campaign, did not cover it, unfortunately, but overall, Pagan Fate of Roanoke is going to be a 2-player head-to-head deduction game. It is very, very good. To me, this is, I mean, what's a good comparison? I can't think of a good comparison, but it was a solid game that it basically is a 2-player head-to-head deduction. One player is the hunter, one player is the witch, and the hunter is trying to pin down the witch while the witch is trying to remain secret while ultimately achieving her goals. And it really does play back and forth, lots of tactical ways to mess around with others, and if the witch gets far enough in her progression, then you can figure out, the hunter might realize who the witch is, but if it's too late, it might be too late. The witch may be able to escape with the win, unless the hunter manages to deduce who the witch is earlier, and or have clever or more tactical play. This is a good part of it, is the social deduction aspect of the game in this 2-player head-to-head, but a good part of the game is also the tactical strategy of how you choose to execute on the cards you have, on the tableau you're building up. Lots of decisions in this game, and it's not purely about who's figuring out who's who. Big part of it, but not exclusively about that. From there, we have So You've Been Eaten by Ludi Creations. So You've Been Eaten, which is a game that brings you competitive solo play 1, solo play 2, and then a complete AI as the monster fights off against the diver, the miner, the beast and the miner is what it was. So this is a game where you basically have, it's asymmetric gameplay. You have one person who is the beast, one person who is the miner. The miner is trying to dig into the belly of the beast and gather these crystals and escape. The beast, on the other hand, is trying to eat the miner because you have someone in their belly and they don't like that. So it's trying to slowly basically send your bacteria, your stomach bacteria, towards the miner. The miner has to kind of tactically dance around that. A little bit of tactical play on both sides, and multiple solo modes for this game if you want to play it solo as well. From there, we have Caper Europe. This is going to be the follow-up to the game Caper. Caper is a game where you basically have three areas. Let me see if I can find a picture over here. You're going to have, I don't know if it's, here we go. So you're going to have these 3 areas you're fighting over. Each area has a thing that you're trying to compete over, and you're going to be playing down spies and equipment on your side of the board to ultimately achieve dominance in each of those zones. You go back across multiple rounds, trying to gather more and more things, trying to gather more and more equipment, getting your spies out there, trying to basically load up the things in a way that tactically rewards you. You'll get points from the various equipment you play, points from the various spies you play, and of course points from winning the location. Lots of small little things to consider in this 2-player head-to-head game, and that's basically more what I'm just describing Caper, because I've played Caper. Caper Europe is basically along the same lines, just more of the same basically, and streamlined. From there, we have Meeples Monsters from AEG. Meeples Monsters is a bag building worker placement game. Think of it as like Lords of Waterdeep meets Quacks of Quellenberg to a degree. You're going to be going around the board trying to get different areas. You're building a bag of different meeples that will help you in your objectives as you go around the board in this worker placement bag building game. From there, we have Silverwood Grove. Silverwood Grove by Sam Millman, by the company name is Great Games. This was their largest Kickstarter yet, I believe. They've done a lot of smaller games. This one brought in 2,200 backers. That is significantly higher than most of their games. And overall, this was the first one that I was really intrigued by. I didn't end up backing it personally just because I didn't get a good feel of how the game actually played. But overall, the artwork looks great, which their art always looks great. But the gameplay did look a bit more immersive, a bit more detailed. Lots of powers and abilities and different things going on in the games. Was that Sidewind Games there? Cool. Sidewind Games is yeah. Either way, so that is going to be Silverwood Grove over here. From there we have Eternal Palace. Eternal Palace brought to you by Alley Cat Games. Eternal Palace is a game that has an element of, it's basically rolling dice and assigning those dice secretly to different areas, trying to accomplish your goals. In this game, you're going to be slowly but surely building out a tableau. It's got like this whole thing over here that may or may not show you. Here you go. You can see them being over here. Oh, you can see them over here with the pieces being overlaid piece by piece. It has no gameplay relevance whatsoever, but it does look pretty. But ultimately, you're trying to get those pieces and acquire them and build together. Each piece is worth a point. You're trying to place your dice down in ways that will reward you as you go through this, and you're doing it all blindly so people don't really see what's happening until you reveal your screen and do what you need to do. This one looks interesting. I went ahead and backed this one, but yeah, basically Eternal Palace. From there, Super Fantasy Brawl. we're halfway through the first batch of games. Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2. Super Fantasy Brawl Round 2 is going to be bringing you, well, more Super Fantasy Brawl. Effectively, this is going to be 9 more characters for Super Fantasy Brawl. This is basically just more stuff that is the same as the stuff you got last time. If you like Super Fantasy Brawl, then get more of it. I mean, you don't have to get more of it, because maybe you don't actually play it enough to need more of it. But it's 9 new champions, fun champions. I love the champions in Fantasy Brawl. They all bring their own little taste and character to the table. Lots of fun, some solid ones. I really liked Ra, I think the Sun God in this one. Either way, lots of fun stuff. More stuff for you Super Fantasy Brawl if you wanted that. From there, we have Everdell. Oh my gosh, Everdell. I love Everdell. Every time I see Everdell, I just want to play more Everdell. Everdell, bringing you more content for Everdell. Now, granted, it's not like you necessarily need more content. There's already a ton of content for this game. There's the base game. There's like 3 other expansions. There's Pearlbrook. There's the other expansions. I can't remember the names. I'm sorry. There's other expansions. And this is bringing you 2 more expansions, Mistwood and New Leaf. Just more content for a game. You don't need more content for this game. The table presence for this game is already completely crazy. Let's see if we can see there was an image at one point on the campaign showing you like the whole entire thing. But yeah, if you had absolutely everything laid out for Everdell, I mean, look at this. This is what we got over here. This is your entire Everdell. I don't know if you realize how big that is. This center board, as it is already a full game board. Adding all of this is just complete ridiculous overkill for this game. That said, it's overkill that I'm fine with because it's more Everdell. This bringing you the complete collection, a big box with all the stuff, and of course, late pledge available. From there, we have Valeria Card Kingdoms Darksworn. This is going to be bringing you the expansion to Valeria Card Kingdoms, with brings you cooperative play. So if you're interested in Valeria Card Kingdoms, if you like Valeria Card Kingdoms, and if you want cooperative play for your game, this is the expansion that introduces that cooperative play. For myself, I lean more towards competitive play, but I'm always willing to try anything, so we'll see how this goes. From there, Stellaris Infinite Legacy. Stellaris Infinite Legacy, which is going to be bringing you, well, the video game. This is bringing you the video game brought to the PC game. This campaign did incredibly well, $2 million. Did really solid job in this. But overall, they had a slow start, a lot of stumbling and all that. But this is bringing you a 4X game that is supposedly playable in 2 hours. I'm skeptical of that, but ultimately time will tell on that. From there, Sniper Elite, the board game. This is the one that I might be late pledging. Most of these games I'm not late pledging. I've either backed or haven't backed, and I'm comfortable with my choice. Sniper Elite, the board game, is one that I plan on looking into a bit more to see if I want to late pledge this one. I didn't realize that this is by, this is from David Thompson. I did not realize that, and he's a solid game designer, and nothing against Roger. I just don't know Roger a fan. But David Thompson from War Room, from Undaunted Normandy, from those games, from the game from... What's that miniatures game? Dire Alliance Horror, or whatever it is. He's involved in a bunch of games, but Sniper Elite is one that, and I remember hearing good things from the people. I remember the Dice Tower played it and they liked it. A bunch of people played this one and liked it. I do plan on looking into this one. I may late back this one myself. Basically, it's a sniper game. It's a secret. It's bringing you the video game, but it seemed to have elements of V Commandos, of that system, of a stealth-based system. I was intrigued. I didn't love the miniatures, but I do need to look into this one and see if I need to late pledge it myself. From there, Neomorphosis Infestation. This is a game from Darkgate Games, the same people who brought you... I forgot this one. Darkgate Games brought you... I can't remember the name of the game. I'm blanking. Either way, so Neomorphosis is bringing you the Neomorphosis Infestation is bringing you a kind of a cross between Nemesis and Zombicide together into a game. You're gonna have these aliens that progress and mutate in the game. You're going through the spaceship trying to accomplish goals. Lots of fun things. Gorgeous looking miniatures. Overall, Dark Rituals. That's the game. Dark Rituals, the game, whatever. Either way, but yeah, Neomorphosis, one that I'm intrigued by. Didn't end up backing this one in the end, but I'm still looking into this one. I heard that it was. I've heard from people who played it that was really good. I still need to look into this one. I'm trying to wrestle with my self-control here. That's why I didn't back it the first time. I actually initially backed it, then dropped my pledge, but it looks cool. Anyways, let's try to have self-control. So, moving on from there, we have ISS Vanguard, which opened up their pledge manager. ISS Vanguard is bringing you, well, ISS Vanguard. This is the 28,962 backers, just shy of $5 million raised. Absolutely insane. This is one that this is the, hands down, the best storytelling game I have played in terms of the feels it gives you. I actually have the prototype for this one again. They sent out new prototypes for some of the content creators to cover again, changes in the game, all that stuff. I hope to get that covered this week. I just finished reading the rules and all that. I'm prepped to go. Either way, ISS Vanguard is an epic storytelling adventure game that is all about just going through space, building up your ship, building up your crew, and just going through a narrative, going through a journey. This is one that looks absolutely insane. Not looks insane. I've played it. It's absolutely insane in terms of the amount of feels it gives you, the amount of immersion it gives you, the choices, the impacts. It feels like you're playing Mass Effect, the board game, and it does a solid job at doing that. From there, we have Epic 7 Arise, the board game. This is based on the app game, actually. So this is giving you an app game. The app I don't know the app very well, sorry, but this is an app called Epic 7. They bring you the board game with miniatures, with progressing through it, with attacking baddies. The gameplay looked a little on the simple end, but that said, if you are a fan of the IP, or if the gameplay does appeal to you, this one looked interesting. And also, I believe it gave you like credits for the board game as well. So yeah, this is Epic 7 Arise. From there, we have Heroes of Normandy, the Big Red Edition. This is Heroes of Normandy. Heroes of Normandy is a 2-player tactical game that is not miniature-based, but rather it's token-based. You can have these squads, you can have attributes, all those things you expect to see in a skirmish game. But this is their reprint or whatever it is, bringing you the box back, bringing you a lot of content for the game from the base game, from all new content, tons of stuff in case you like Heroes of Normandy. From there, we have Catacombs and Castle 2nd Edition, the Black Box Edition. This is bringing you more Catacombs and Castle. This is going to be a dexterity-based looking game, still available to late pledge like everything else on this list. Factory Funner, Beer Raid, and Ghost of Christmas. Factory Funner, Beer Raid, and Ghost of Christmas are going to be bringing you 3 different games. Ghost of Christmas is going to be a trick-taking game with an element of playing your tricks to different orders to try to accomplish different things. Factory Funner is a little game where you're trying to navigate different colors of paint into different modules all around while trying to construct your factory floor and direct things in different ways. Very interesting, thinky puzzle. And the Beer Raid is a stock game where you're going to be selling and shorting and buying stock. This is all coming to you from board game tables, and yeah, that's that. Fjord is going to be a reprint of the original game Fjords with some slight gameplay changes, minor gameplay changes, minor tweaks, and some modules, as well as the ability to play this up to 4 players, where the original Fjords was just a 2-player game, I'm pretty certain about that. But either way, this one is available, just giving you updated new stuff, art by Beth Sobel, and new content and some new modules to the game. We have Mage Noir, an expandable card game. This is going to be another card game. Card games are always hard to find their space because it's always a heavily contested area to try to, well, get games in. But this brought you, this one did pretty well. It had like, 2,000 backers, I think? Yeah, 2,600 backers. A lot of people were pulled in by what this game was selling. It looked intriguing. I mean, it looked cool to me as well. There's so many card games. I didn't end up getting this one because I wanted to see if there's still hype, if there's still buzz after the fact, I'll jump on it. But for right now, it looks intriguing, looked cool, lots of powers and abilities. I do like powers and abilities. I do like cards. I do like that kind of thing. But either way, moving on. From there, we have Magna Roma. Magna Roma is an abstract... How to define this? It's an abstract tile laying game where you're basically building out your city in Rome. You're going to have these monuments that you're going to be putting down. The monuments will give you points, they'll give you abilities. You're trying to get people that go on the monuments. You're trying to basically take these tiles from a center row, moving your guys around and putting them into your area to accomplish different objectives. There's going to be different tracks you're trying to move up, just straight up points. There's going to be a god track, there's going to be powers, there's going to be marketplaces, all these different things, conquests, all these different ways that you can expand or augment your game to ultimately get the points in this game. And then, of course, a bunch of expansions as well in the Kickstarter if you went all in, or if you went, depending what you bought for optional buys. There are 3D extras as well as expansions you can get for the game. Lots of stuff, metal coins, just tons of stuff for this tile laying game. From there, we have Longshot the dice game. Longshot's going to be a roll and write game from Perplexed. Now, Longshot's bringing you basically, it's a roll and write where it's a combination of Longshot the board game plus a roll and write game. You're going to be racing or betting on different horses. Horses are going to be zipping around the track. Everyone's going to be trying to bet and different ones. There's going to always be that one player who bets on blue and just manages to come in last place, but other players are trying to navigate and manage who they bet on, how they bet on it, which abilities they take along the way, which horses they buy, because if you own the horse, you get more money as well. It's not just betting, it's winning rights. Lots of things in this roll and write game. From there, we have Lasting Tales, a fantasy miniatures game. This is bringing you the second set of the fantasy miniatures set from Blacklist Games, as well as Lasting Tales, the board game that will incorporate the fantasy miniatures. So if you want a miniatures game, then they give you a miniatures game. This is full-on miniatures. This is like not a miniatures board game. This is like rulers and dice and stats and books and all those things for your game. And then, of course, 2 giant sets of miniatures to use for it from the original Fantasy Series 1 and the Fantasy Series 2. From there, we have Sentinels of the Multiverse Definitive Edition. This is bringing you the new version of Sentinels of the Multiverse. This is the 3rd version of the Sentinels of the Multiverse. That's not a word you can say fast. Sentinels of the Multiverse had the original game, then they had the Enhanced Edition, which was around for a long time, and now they have the new Definitive Edition, trying to streamline it, add new art, trying to make it a little even easier to jump into this universe. From there, we have Johny Company 2nd Edition. Johny Company 2nd Edition is bringing you, this is coming to you from Whirly Gig Games, from Cole Whirly. And this is, the Johny Company was already printed. This is the 2nd edition. No different to the way they had PAX Premier and then PAX Premier 2nd edition. This is giving, and this is tremendously well. This is a 9,000 backers, $787,000. That is absolutely insane. Good for them. This is going to be a heavy game. Keep that in mind before you get back into this. This is a very heavy game. No different than PAX Premier. This is bringing you a lot of meaty gameplay to your table from Cole Whirly, who is like an insane game designer. All his games manage to feel completely different. Either way, this is Johny Company. From there, we have 1815, Scum of the Earth from Tristan Hall. This is going to be another game where you're fighting over 3 battlefields. It's a very common thing in games. We actually already had it earlier today. In which game? in the one in Caper. Caper already had that. So you often have these games, these 2-player games, where you're fighting over like 3 different battlefields, and the way you fight over which one or whatnot. We have Crimson Company, we have Omen, we have tons of these games in this genre. We have Blood Bowl, lots of different games. Blood Bowl, the card game to be specific. Lots of games that do this, but this one has absolutely gorgeous art. I want to focus on that. The gameplay, so I mean, supposedly the gameplay's solid. I haven't actually played it myself, but the thing I want to focus on is the art, because the art is absolutely amazing. I did end up late pledging this one because, well, I mean, it looks gorgeous. Let me see if I can find some full art over here, because I really do want to focus on just how gorgeous. I mean, look at this. Look at these pictures. They're absolutely gorgeous. I know I saw one person commented when I talked about this, how it didn't pull them in, and that's fine. Different strokes for different folks, but this is stuff that I would straight up hang on my wall. Absolutely gorgeous looking. I'm very excited to get this game and see how it plays out. From there, and Tristan Hall, by the way, has a bunch of good games under his belt, so yeah. From there, we have Boogeyman the board game. Boogeyman the board game, 1,700 backers, 447,000 euro raised. This is going to be a game where you're basically fighting against the babysitter and the boogeyman all at the same time. Looked like an interesting game with different elements to it. Ones that I was intrigued by. Didn't personally back it at the end, but definitely was intrigued by this game. We have 3 left to go before we take a break for the old late pledges. Imperial Spells and Steam. This one scraped over the finish line. I'm happy for them. Level 99 games. This is a reprint to Imperial Spells and Steam. Wait, Imperial Far Corner. This is a reprint to Imperial Spells and Steam, bringing you another expansion along the way. This one scraped over the finish line last minute. Very happy for them. I still have my base game. Still need to play it. I have a lot of games I need to play. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, yeah, Imperial Spells and Steam. This is going to be from Level 99 Games and giving you a 4x, not 4x, I don't know why I said 4x. This is giving you a delivery game, pick up and deliver kind of delivery game in the vein of many of these games, in the vein of Steam and all that, but mixing Magic into the mix. So if you wanted to have your Magic Railroads, well, this is going to be giving you your Magic Railroads. From there, we have Australia. Australia is going to be combining, mishmash like Elder Ones and, you know, a train game. So again, if you want, just speaking of Steam is also designed by Martin Wallace. This is giving you as well a kind of a train game, but with the Elder Ones and stuff. And this expansion brought you some extra things, including, I believe, cooperative and or solo play to the game. Lots of fun things. This is one that I'm very intrigued by. I know Board Game Cafe loves it, and that's already enough for me to be interested. I should get it, but I also shouldn't get it. We'll make decisions later. Anyways, from there we have Survival Involved, Board Royale, new content for Board Royale. This is going to be a kind of abstracted, Battle Royale game where you're basically just playing cards to a table, playing cards, getting equipment, building equipment, getting gear. It's all abstracted. There's no board you're running around. It's all based on card play. Looks like a fun kind of game. Lots of expansions and module packs to go. And that is basically everything. So allow me to take a break while I'm still here. I'm just going to go ahead and just grab a sip of water, and I will be right with you. Sorry, there's lots of stuff to go through. Okay, we're making good time, because these next ones that I'm doing from here on in are going to be just all the ones I have covered in prior videos. So if you've watched my prior videos, then you don't need to watch this, unless of course you enjoy being tempted by things that you happily chose to pass on last time. These ones are going to rattle through even further, even faster, because I've already covered all of these games. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. So starting off the bat, we have Sakura Arms. This is going to be by David Dalton and Level 99 Games. This is also Level 99 Games. We just talked about them, Imperials. Sakura Arms is going to be from AEG. It's going to be another one of those card games with multiple things that you're pushing back and forth on the track. Think Flash Duel 2nd Edition, all that. Sakura Arms. This is a reprint and new content. And Trespass Odyssey, the campaign that never actually dies. This is still available to late pledge. We'll have a few of these. We have whatever. We have some stuff. We'll cover them. And Trespass Odyssey, this is more expensive than late pledge manager by a decent amount, so you may or may not want to jump in it, but still supposedly more expensive in retail later. Adventures in Neverland. This is one that has been around for a while. 4,892 backers. It's still available to late pledge. We'll see how this one goes. But yeah, Adventures in Neverland. Wolfenstein the board game from Arkan Studios. This is another one. Speaking of tempted, oh my gosh, I should not be tempted by this. I should not be backing this. I should be walking away. I'm closing this down right now. Dawnshade, The Watcher's Prophecy. Dawnshade is going to be a game that brings you, it's going to obviously be reminiscent of Too Many Bones in terms of chip theory games, in terms of the way they handle the boards, but this does look like it's bringing different gameplay to the table. So yeah, you can check on this one. Divinity Original Sin, which is still available to late pledge and still being delayed and still being pushed off, and they've apologized and they've this and that, but they're trying to make the game as good as possible. I'm not in a rush. I have too many games that I haven't played. Anyways, whatever. From there, we have Storm Thunder, Heirs of Ruin. I like Laser Squire games, don't get me wrong, but I'll be covering Wild Descent. In fact, if you stick around to the end of this video, I may show you some things. But Storm Thunder is a game that this is going to be available to late pledge for a while. Lazy Squire games, as much as I like them as a company, as much as I think their games are amazing, they're not the fastest at delivering stuff. But I'm not in a rush. As long as I actually get my games in the end, I'm not in a rush. But understand, if you back this one, I'll show you some Storm Thunder stuff I'll show you some Storm Brush miniatures at the end of this video if you stick around. From there, we have the Age of Atlantis. The Age of Atlantis by Eldorado Games. By the way, I just had a chance to play the most recent game that's going to be coming out, Legends Academy. I'm hyped for that. I have not played the Age of Atlantis. I have backed the Age of Atlantis, but I'm very hyped for Legends Academy. So I'm just going to talk about Legends Academy instead. Age of Atlantis, blah, 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 go back it. But Legends Academy is very cool, very much up my alley. Powers and abilities, card crafting, all these things that I really like. I'm excited. Anyways, moving on. Who Goes There Second Edition by Certifiable Studios. Who Goes There is going to be bringing you the gameplay of the thing, but now we have like 3 or 4 games that bring you the gameplay of the thing, but this one is pretty well rated. You can check it out and still available to late pledge. We have the ISS Vanguard, another game that's constantly being pushed out, one that I keep on having people tell me I should late pledge this one because they've made changes, they've done this, they've done that. I'm paying attention to it. I'm definitely paying attention to it, but we'll see. The audio, that Foreteller app, insanity. Anyways, Hamburg, Amsterdam, Stefanfeld City Collection. Lots of new expensive games. If you want to pay lots of money for these cool Euro games, I mean, don't get me wrong, lots of games are expensive, but these are going to be bringing you Bruges and Amsterdam and Rialto and one other. I can't remember which one it was, but bringing you a lot of stuff. Maybe New York. Was it New York? Lots of stuff for them, basically, but bringing you newer versions of Stefan Feld's games. Out-of-print games that are hard to get. We have Streets by Sinister Fish Games. Streets is going to be a game that they had Villagers, and they have Streets. I think they have an expansion of Villagers coming up shortly, but you can go ahead and late pledge Streets if you want to get, it looks like simple gameplay, but simple yet fun gameplay. Planet Unknown, another game that is constantly pushed off, unfortunately, but it looks like they are finally heading towards production, but that said, you can still late pledge this as of now. It's one that I'm very much looking forward to. I'm a draught nervous in terms of just whenever newer content, whenever newer campaigns have like really drawn out stuff, similar to Lazy Squire before they actually started delivering Wild Descent, I always get a little bit nervous, but I'm very excited. From Adam Relberg from Planet Adam's Apple Games. They also had 4 Humors, which I also really enjoyed, although I enjoyed 4 Humors, but I love Planet Unknown. Very excited for this one. This is going to be a polyomino game with a Lazy Susan and placing your boards in different planets and lots of fun things. We have Monsters on Board from Final Frontier Games. This is going to be their dice drafting games as you try to manage your monsters and send the cart around the table for other people. Look like genuine dice drafting, which looked fun. Either way, we have Endangered Orphans House of Wrath, another game by Certifiable Studios. This one looks very much like a kind of like a Mr. Jack style game in terms of a little bit of a puzzle of both deduction and forcing people to reveal themselves. Looked intriguing, very interested in this one, but either way, moving on. We have Into Deep by Burnt Island Games. This is from the same people who brought you, where we already covered Foul of Mountain King at the beginning of this video. Into Deep brings you deduction-based gameplay, very unique in the feeling of the game that it gives you. It's a solid game, a little fiddly in some aspects of it, but overall, the deduction involved in this game was incredibly solid. The aspect of the puzzles you're trying to, not deduction, the puzzles you're trying to accomplish in this game, as you have these puzzles in your hand, you're trying to set up a kind of a scenario, a situation. You have this character here with that agent here in that location with these tools, and then boom, you get a bunch of points, and you get to do a bunch of things to help you win the game. We have Forgotten Depths, which is going to be a cooperative dungeon adventure as you lay down these little tiles, you level up your characters, all that typical stuff. We have 7th Citadel, a game that is going to be 7th Continent, but 7th Citadel. For me, 7th Citadel is 7th Continent, but better. I got rid of 7th Continent because I like 7th Citadel a lot more. I think it's a lot more intriguing and interesting, and the story was better. I do debate whether 7th Continent is a better entry point. I think people should potentially play 7th Continent, and then if they like that, upgrade to 7th Citadel. 7th Citadel might be a little bit much in terms of the jumping in off the bat, but I think it's a better game. From there, we have Set of Watch, Swords of the Coin. It's going to be the expansion to Set of Watch, bringing you more content for your Set of Watch gameplay. This is going to be a solo survival game. I still have it on my shelf. I need to play this one again. It's been a while. This is a solid little puzzly game. Lots of fun to go through it as you try to survive the night in this game. We have Fantastic Factories Manufactions. There's going to be more stuff for Fantastic Factories. It's going to be a dice placement game where you try to place your dice to accomplish different goals, get different stuff, buy more cards. Lots of fun to go through. We have Windward Expansion Big Box, again from Eldorado Games. Have I told you about Legends Academy? Legends Academy is a fun little game. I'm very excited about Legends Academy. And yeah, Windward. Go ahead and check that one out. Hogs of War, the miniatures game from Stone Sword Games. This is going to be based on the PC game. This is going to be based on the PC game that was around for a long time, and it's basically going to be giving you that with small elements of tactical gameplay. Looked a little bit like Rivet Wars with a drop of polyomino building in your base. I love polyomino building. I almost got this game just because of the polyomino building, but I held strong. Speaking of games I almost got, Cactus Town. Cactus Town is going to be a action programming game, whatever it is, where you try to program your actions, then play them out. Think Robo Rally, think Rurik, think any of those games that have action programming. Cactus looked intriguing. Cactus Town. We have High Rise from Gilhova. High Rise, which is bringing you, well, I actually don't know much about the gameplay in High Rise. I remember I looked into it at the time, but I have since forgotten. But High Rise, bringing you, expansions and extras and deluxeifications and all that. We have Twisted Fables by Dimension Games. Twisted Fables is another game with a card row, similar to Sakura Arms, similar to that other game I talked about. I'm blanking on these names. Either way, so this is going to be Twisted Fables. Twisted Fables Flash Duel. So Twisted Fables is bringing you basically Twisted Fables, giving you lots of Red Riding Hood and Alice and all these characters, but twisted. They're all dark and attacking and vengeful and have these card decks as you build out this deck building game and fight back and forth across the row, trying to accomplish some objectives and ultimately, well, take down your opponent. Lots of fun. Cool game. Anyways, we have Campaign Trail, 2nd edition, and Green Party expansion. This is going to be the Campaign Trail reprint as well as expansion. I don't know much about the gameplay itself. Looked interesting. I remember I did back this. I late pledged this. Probably shouldn't have. But then again, it's too late now. Mistakes were made. Oh yeah, Jeremy Howard liked it. That's what it was. Yeah, Jeremy Howard. I'm not a fan of games with political theme, but Campaign Trail is too great to pass up. I hate you, Jeremy Howard. You make me back stuff. By Bio's Bestafona, Angelunas. This is going to be from Sierra Madre Games, and sadly, I don't know enough about these games to talk about them competently, so I'm just going to move on. We have Shoal Board Game. This is an ambitious game. They're both ambitious in the pledge level as well as the gameplay it's bringing to the table. It has interesting miniatures, cool miniatures. It has a dark board as you have this kind of tower defense aspect to the game. Looks very interesting. This is a game I'm actually very interested by. If the reviews are positive and solid, it's one that I will check out. I didn't late pledge it, but that's just, again, the self-control occasionally intermittently kicking in. We have Dawn of Madness by Dimension Games. This like it's brought you the Dimension world of Deep Madness, but in terms of just much more of a narrative story game and branching through. Lots of fun things interesting going on. I know King of Ravage had coverage of this one. This one I'm intrigued, but seeing it where it goes. From there we have Monumental Reprint and new expansion African Empires. Oh my gosh, I hate you, Funforge, making me spend, not making me, that's my choice, my bad decisions, but making me spend ridiculous amounts of money on these gigantic over-the-top titans. Can we talk about this game? I backed this game, and then I canceled it like when they brought these behemoths out. I was like, there's no way, I cannot justify this at all. But then I kept my pledge in the end, and I late backed it. I had a $1 pledge, and I upped it in the pledge manager because I do like the gameplay. It's a bit of a beast to get out to the table, but I do like the gameplay. Anyways, Tanares Adventures plus the winner of the contest. This is going to be Tanares Adventures, another one of those campaigns that keeps on dragging on. I'm not in a rush for it. I got lots of games to play in the meantime, but Arena of the Contest is a solid game, great game, very excited for this one, and this is bringing you, well, more gameplay for the game, and more story-based, and more co-op, and more monsters, and pre-painted dragons. Have I said again, pre-painted dragons? And we have Legacies by Jason Brooks. This is a game that is available to late pledge still. This is a game where you go through multiple empires, multiple ages. I can't remember much about this game. It's been a while, but Legacies available to late pledge, like all these things. Hell of the Last Saga by Mythic Games. Hell of the Last Saga, which is 17,000 backers, a story-driven game, another one that's constantly being delayed as they keep on. These story-driven games take a long time to get right. You gotta ignore all those like dates in general. June 2021, that's not gonna happen at all, because it is June 2021, and Hell of the Last Saga is not on the way. But yeah, Mythic, by the way, launching tomorrow. 6 Siege, check that one out. That is a solid skirmish game. And there, Cascadia from Flat Out Games. This is a little puzzly game. If you like Sprawlopolis, back Cascadia. That's my pitch. If you like Sprawlopolis, back Cascadia. We have Tactiki by Draw Labs. This is going to be bringing you a 2-player abstract game with a degree of hidden information. Think Stratego. This was pretty fun. It's one of those games I was not expecting to like this one, because any game that has hidden information like that, I don't love the concept of it. That said, there have been exceptions over the years. There's Confrontation, which is a great game. The Espionage and Deception in the Cold War. There's Lord of the Rings Confrontation, which is a great game. And then there's Tactiki, which is also a solid little puzzly game where it's half bluffing your opponent and then half understanding that you've set up your opponent in a way it doesn't matter what they're going to do, you're going to win the round. From there we have Nova Aeris Renaissance from Ludus Magnus Studios. This is a game that I have the self-control not to back just because there's too many giant sprawling games in this universe. I am very interested in the game, but I can't play everything. He reluctant. There's too many games. Whatever. Anyways, Darkest Dungeon, the board game by Mythic Games again. This is another one you can still late pledge. It's going to be bringing you the PC game, or is it not? I don't know if it's PC game exclusively. The video game, Darkest Dungeon, brought to your table with lots of fun stuff, lots of adorable miniatures. I almost backed this game for the miniatures alone. I don't care about the video game. I never played it, but the game looked a little fiddly for me. But the miniatures are so adorably cute. I kind of want to get this game just for the miniatures alone. This is not a cheap video for me. Okay, Freedom 5, Sentinel Comics board game from Arcane Wonders. Freedom 5 is bringing you superhero-ness. This is a game that, again, my thing with this one is very torn. On the one hand, I currently rate my games. I'd have a hard time rating this one because I really like parts of the gameplay, but also parts of the gameplay where fiddly is one of those games that I really am looking forward to getting this one. I went all in it. I'm getting a lot of content. I'm excited for it. I don't know if it'll stay in my collection. It depends on how some of these elements were streamlined or not. But again, it's a tough one. I really like parts of the game, and some of the parts were just too much to manage. We'll see how it goes. Although, like I gave the disclaimer at the last time, if you like Sentinels of the Multiverse, if you like Arkham Horror, because the designer, then overall, this is not going to scare you off. Both those games as well have degrees of fiddliness that didn't stay in my collection. So Freedom 5, very intrigued by. Endless Winter. This is one that I absolutely adore. Speaking of rating games, Endless Winter was my highlight of 2020 in terms of, well, it's not out in 2020, but my Kickstarter pick of the year. Endless Winter was a delightful game. Really enjoyed it. Looking forward to all the expansion modules. It was just solid deck builder worker placement. I love Arnak, I love Dune Imperium, but Endless Winter is my favorite of the three. Although Arnak's really growing on me. Shogun No Katana by Postscriptum. This is a very solid game. This was a little bit meaty, not as high as for me. This is like a 4 to 5 for me. I really enjoyed the aspect of trying to navigate your katana through your forge while you took different actions. I felt a little restricted. I wanted to be able to do more in the game, but also there's like these advisor modules or whatever it is that was in the Kickstarter that I didn't get to play with. That might give me that little extra feel. Really intrigued by this one. Looking forward to getting this one. Shogun No Katana. Core Space, First Reborn. This is going to be more Core Space. Core Space is going to be a miniatures game that gives you both like more miniatures and also more board games. There's different ways you can play the game. There's grid movement, there's ruler movement, different ways you can play, and lots of terrain. This is all about the setting up of the map that you have in this game. The Librarian's Adventure card game. This is a deck builder game with the Librarian's universe for everything epic. That's basically all you need. No need to know. It's a deck building game in the Librarian's universe. We have Pachacuna, a 2-player abstract game as you try to basically navigate the hills and valleys of the game, constantly rotating pieces to set up perfect networks for your llamas to move across. That's right, your llamas to move across. We have Transcontinental. Transcontinental, a game that I covered a long time ago. I don't remember a lot about this one. It's from a Canadian designer. I don't remember the gameplay of it. Looked interesting. The colors look beautiful, but it's still available to late pledge. We have The Pursuit of Happiness. This is a game where you're going to go through your story in life. You're going to, well, trying to achieve the pursuit of happiness in this game as you place down your different things. You acquire different jobs. You acquire different cars and this and that. You overwork yourself. You rest. You get stressed. Lots of interesting things in this game. I played the base game a long time ago, once upon a time. Very solid implementation of kind of that aspect of going through life. It kind of felt like, if you ever played CV, the game, I think it's called CV. This was basically CV, but like much more in terms of the way the game played out. We have Dark Venture, Battle of the Ancients, a game I have not played, but Quacklubb convinced me to back this one, just based on the way he talked about this one. So if I get it and don't like it, I will 100% be sending a bill to Jesse, because that guy talked about the game in a way that made me very intrigued for just how interesting this game will be. Either way, but yes. So, Nemo's War, Journey's End Expansion and Ultimate Edition. This is going to be the final, supposed final version of the Ultimate Journey's End expansion for Nemo's War. Nemo's War is going to be a solo game, primarily solo. You can play with more, but it's primarily a solo game, and it's one where you're trying to basically, you're Nemo, and you're trying to survive and fight your warships and accomplish different goals and all that stuff in this game, and it's giving you more content and a big box for that game. We have Vindication Chronicles. Vindication Chronicles is bringing you the expansion to Vindication. The Chronicles expansion is giving you all these story-driven aspects to the game. Available to late pledge, 8,441 backers. Very excited for this one. Just giving you lots of like story-driven elements. Kind of, and now that I think about it, kind of combines aspects of like the Witcher board game, and the story cards you read with Vindication. So very intrigued by that. Very excited. Darwin's Journey. Darwin's Journey is going to be a heavy Euro game. Lots of stuff in Darwin's Journey. Looks very intriguing. I mean, this is like continuing the trend from just heavy Euro games with deluxe-fied productions that will run you $100 on Kickstarter, but may or may not be worth it depending on just how cool and deluxe and awesome the game is. Tennis Trail from Alley Cat Games, a reprint of the original Tennis Trail from Martin Wallace, but streamlined and reprinted a bit, so streamlined and touched up in different ways in the design, the choices, the mechanics, all that stuff. Very intrigued by this one. I really like Tennis Trail, and anything an updated version of it, very intrigued. We shall see. Castle of Mad King Ludwig Collector's Edition. This is a basically collector's gigantic over-the-top box version. Think Suburbia and Suburbia's Collector's Edition. This is Castle of Mad King Ludwig and Castle of Mad King Ludwig Deluxe Edition with other stuff, with game trays, with modules, with new expansions, all the stuff you can possibly imagine or want for this game, including ridiculously oversized tiles if you want that as well. And finally, and last on this list, is Carnegie Deluxe Edition. Speaking of expensive, Euro games, this is one that I did have a chance to play. Really enjoyed it. Not as good as Troyes for me, which is Troyes and Carson City are my favorite games from the designer, but this was a solid game. Very meaty, very tight, but lots of ways you can build out. Basically have this action of you have 20 actions a turn, but every round one player chooses the action and other players follow based on the tableau they built out. So a very interesting puzzle of trying to get the best actions for yourself versus trying to build out your tableau in a way that you can properly and accurately follow others. And that has been a wrap. 51 minutes, not too bad, not too shabby for 100 different games, averaging 30 seconds a game, which sounds a bit right, but a lot of games. Links, like as I said before, we will have in the description, there'll be timestamps, even though the timestamps won't look like it, and in the comment, the pinned comment, will be links to all these pledge managers in case you have trouble tracking them down. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and have a good one. I didn't forget. I'm going to show you some things. So, for what it's worth, what I'm about to show you is going to be in my video tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, my video is going to be a Wild Ascent Levon Rising unboxing combined with Storm Sunder PVC miniatures. So I got some Storm Sunder PVC miniatures over here. This is going to be from Storm Sunder. See if the camera will focus. So this is going to be a PVC miniature. That means that's the final. That's not like resin. This is what you are actually getting in your game, okay? But this is going to be Stormbrush, okay? See these over here? This is going to be your Stormbrushed miniatures for the game. Both of these are PVC. Both of these are final production copies. Okay, let's do one more. And again, these are in my video tomorrow. So, you know, it's not like this is, if you want to see all the stuff, I'm going to be doing all the stuff tomorrow as well. I have a handful of Stormbrush miniatures. Let's get that to focus. Oh, it's trying to focus on me. Let's get the camera to focus on this. There we go. And then we can bring this into focus, and it's going to keep focusing. Yeah. Whoops. Like looking off camera to make sure it actually has these. But again, a Stormbrushed and non-Stormbrushed PVC final sculpts. Okay, like this is PVC. I can like flick it. Won't break anything. In case you know, resin would probably snap if I did that. Like the sword. That's like full-on PVC. Okay, so that's that. And then lastly, and this one is not PVC. This is just going to be a very quick tease, and then I'm going to end the video, so feel free to pause anything like that. This is going to be on tomorrow's video. We got the dragon. I'll see you tomorrow.